Hey guys, what is happening? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. And I was like, you know what? Today's a good day to make a video about guitars, just like every day. Oh! So I made a video a while back called Why You Need All Three. And basically what I was talking about was the iconic trio of a Les Paul, a TELE, and a STRAT. Now, in that video, a lot of you guys commented. I made that video maybe 2 years ago. I can't exactly remember now. I think it was 2 years ago, actually. But anyways, a bunch of you guys commented on it, and you were like, hey, you need a 335. And I was like, I do need a 335. I've been looking for the right 335 for years and years and years. And finally, I found one last year after looking for one. I don't know how many years I've been looking for a 335. A long time. But I finally found one, and I was like, you know what? I should kind of do an updated video, because a lot of you guys were right. You know, it's a very different sound. And I'm going to talk about all the different tones and just the reasons why you might need these. There goes my pick. Pick's just gone. And I probably titled this video like, show your wife or something like that, just to be obnoxious. But it is a good point, you know? A lot of times, you know, people don't understand, why do you need more than one guitar? Like, you have a Les Paul. It's like, yeah, but a Les Paul will never sound like a Strat. Strat's never going to sound like a TELE. TELE's never going to sound like a Les Paul. And a 335 does its own thing. So let's go ahead and jump into these. I'm going to kind of like break down why I think, you know, essentially a guitar player could justify having all four of these guitars. And you guys can leave your own comments down below, and let's just kind of go. Alright, so the first one we're going to talk about is, of course, a Strat. Now, I do want to preference that, you know, take the headstock off of it. Name doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have an ESP Strat, a Fender Strat, Tom Anderson, Sir, whatever it is. Or if it is a Fender, it doesn't matter if it's a Mexi, an MIJ, any of that kind of stuff. None of that stuff matters. It just matters what guitar you have and what one is inspiring you. So forget about forget about the headstock. If you have basically this general body, a Strat body with 3 single coil pickups, you got a Strat. You know, you're gonna get relatively in the ballpark of what a Strat is supposed to sound like. When you add a humbucker, changes stuff. But if you have this kind of layout, you've got a Strat. And, you know, I think a Strat is one of the most iconic sounds of all. If you're a person who doesn't own a Strat, like, obviously if you don't like the way a Strat sounds, then don't get one. that would be ridiculous. But I think a Strat has one of the most recognizable, if not the most recognizable sound. Because, you know, I've heard Les Pauls that I thought were TELEs, and TELEs I thought were Les Pauls. But a Strat usually sticks out. And I think a neck pickup on a Strat is, you know, such an iconic. You know, even the bridge has a very distinct sound to it. It's kind of harsh sounding for me. You know, very harsh sounding, but then you have the very iconic positions, like position 4 and 2, which I only have a three-way on mine, but you can still, I can wedge it in there. There we go. So there's, you know, position 4 essentially. And I just love that sound, and position 2 is no, and I'm not really going to hunt for that one. But I pretty much just use the neck pickup all the time. That is, you know, when I think of a Strat, I think of the neck pickup. And one of the, I think, the very commonly overlooked thing, and this applies to all of the guitars I'm about to talk about, the tones that are hidden inside of your volume knob. Now, this is something where I really think it sets each guitar apart. Because as you start rolling your volume knob, if you notice, I play with my volume knob constantly when I'm playing. Just because I think that brings out the true sounds of the guitar. You know, any guitar does not just have one sound in it. It has many. And you can mess with the tone knobs, of course, as well. You know, get that kind of wah sound. And the tone all the way down on this sounds so different than the Les Paul. I'll try to remember to do it on all of them. But one of the biggest things I'm telling you is this volume knob. So, because listen, like, hear it full blast. You know, I'll take some of the body out of it and a little bit of that hair, roll the volume down a little bit. Obviously, and I'm kind of lightening up my touch, so a lot of it is hand sensitivity. But roll it down even more. Now I have a nice clean. Oh, hold on. Can I play this chord? There we go. You know, know, just like I said, to me, that's when you start pulling out tones that you're not going to find on a TELE, you're not going to find on a Les Paul. These are very exclusive to a Strat. So you got to have a Strat in your collection. And let's kind of move on to the next one. Oh, I got picking this one up after the Strat. It's very different. Now, humbuckers are something that will bring out a totally different side of you. And just playing a Les Paul, like I said, one of the biggest takeaways I think from this video should be is that the guitars pull out completely different, you know, a different player out of you. And that's why I like having different ones. Even though, like I said, you know, for riffs, I like a Les Paul, you know, especially when the volume's turned on. Make sure I wasn't clipping. It's a whole different side of me, you know, and that's a little bit bright. Very different animal in this one. And I guess I've always said, you know, Strat is more of a lead instrument for me. Les Paul is way more of a rhythm, just a riffy kind of thing. If you look at the back of my guitar, you can't see it on camera, but if you can feel where I've worn off the lacquer on the back of this guitar, because I'm down here a lot, you know, I'm more in the riff areas when I'm playing this guitar. And one of the coolest things that happened last year is I finally fixed my volume on this guitar for probably 3 or 4 years. I had only worked on 10. I didn't want to go without the guitar because I used it so much. I finally took it in and got new pots put in it. And it did the same thing. It opened up this whole new world of using the volume knobs. Listen how different that is, you know, that this is, to me, very TELE-ish. Not quite a TELE, it's different, but it has that kind of twang. I think it's funny, you always think that something like to me it sounds like a TELE until I plug in the TELE, then I'm like, oh, whoa. No, it doesn't. It sounds like a thicker TELE. You know, you realize how different it is when you have the real thing all of a sudden to compare the audio to. But overall, like I said, this one, now this is a guitar that I don't like to play clean. I've never been much of a fan of humbuckers clean. It's just my own thing, even though these are pretty bright and snappy. And I'm almost always on the bridge pickup. I almost never use the neck pickup on this guitar. Even though it sounds great, it's just not a sound that I go after, you know? But again, none of my other guitars do what this guitar does. Like I said, I literally can't pick up this guitar without just starting to write stuff. Like, it just happens. For some reason, me and this guitar, we're just very in sync and, you know, musically in sync. So... Like I said, I play it and I can just write all day long if I need to. But also, even when I'm playing Les Paul, even if it's more leads, if you know, at least I notice it in my playing, I play way more aggressive. You know, a Strat, I tend to have more of a lighter touch to it, and a Les Paul and a TELE, you know, TELE just kind of pulls out the same thing, is a very aggressive side of the playing. And like I said, and it's just the guitar brings this kind of stuff out. And like I said, I told you I'd do the volume, or the tone down. So here's the tone down on this one. Had that wah sound, very different from the Strat. Now, if you want that woman kind of tone, you know, you can get the neck pickup going on here, and you can get that. I need a little bit more. Like I said, I don't really use the neck pickup that much on this one, but it sounds great. Like I said, it's a very like chimey. Pull it down a little bit. Missed the chord like always. And you know, that's a Les Paul for me. Like I said, again, a very different sound, totally different vibe to it. And it makes you play a certain way. And I can't stress, especially Strat and Les Paul, man, they're polar opposites, and they just, woo, they work together so good. back to a light guitar. Now this one needs some strings on it bad. It's good to go. I always call it a TELE. It's just a slab of wood with some strings, and it's the simplicity of a Telecaster, in my opinion, that makes it so special, because it makes you rely way more on what you're playing and how you're playing it than, you know, necessarily changing pickup stuff. Because I honestly, I never use anything other than the bridge. If I'm doing some Jimmy Page stuff, I'll use that middle, you know, to get some of that Pagey sound. But other than that, I really don't use anything other than the bridge pickup on a Telecaster. That's actually why this year I'm hoping to get an old Esquire. That's a really big goal of mine, because I think that would be like the perfect TELE for me as an Esquire. But anyways, all that aside, a TELE and a bridge pickup is really interesting because the reason why it sounds so unique, or at least part of a TELE's sound, is actually what you see right here. Now, what you have is you have this metal plate, and you, of course, see the pickup is mounted to it. Now, this is essential. If you notice, none of the other guitars that I played is the pickup mounted like this. And this is why, the reason why I know this is I was actually talking to, when I got my Friedman Strat, my initial idea was to have a TELE pickup in the bridge. And Grover Jackson told me, he's like, you know what? It's not going to sound the way that you think it's going to. He's like, a big part of a TELE sound is, of course, that metal plate. And, you know, we could have, like, Jimmy rigged some way of getting it on there. I was like, oh, okay, so that's why that guitar has a humbucker in it. I didn't want the metal plate. I just don't like the way it looks on a Strat, to be honest. So I was like, you know what, don't worry about it. Put a humbucker in it instead. And that will be perfectly fine. But that really opened up my eyes whenever he told me that, because he was just like, you know, that metal plate is part of that TELE sound. What you like in a TELE, he's like, if you put a TELE pickup in a Strat without that metal plate, it's not going to sound like what you think it's going to. That you know, that plate is part of it. So this is why this guitar sounds the way that it does. So if you have a TELE, I've had a couple different TELEs. My Friedman TELE has a P90 in it, which sounds very different from this one. Obviously, pickups aside, but it doesn't have that metal plate to it either. It has, like I said, two P90s. And it's such a different sound. It's such a snap to the note. There's just any TELE I've ever played, and again, like I said, headstock doesn't matter, because I'm gonna get comments where people are like, but it's a Fender. None of that matters. You know, a TELE is a TELE. At the end of the day. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't changed these strings in probably 2 years. They are so dead. Another 2020 resolution is to change strings on this guitar. Now, a TELE is interesting because I think it can kind of do anything. To me, it really bridges the gap between a Strat and a Les Paul. Because, like I said, or at least with my Les Paul, it has a very TELE-ish sound. But this one, you know, it still is different. So it kind of bridges that gap. Like this, you know, a TELE sounds really good with a lot of distortion on it. You do have a neck pickup, which again, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of TELE neck pickup. They do sound good. I don't know what my reservation is about them. When that bridge pickup kicks in. TELE is another one of those riff guitars for me. Like I said, you could do solos on it, but this particular one is just very riffy when it gets in my hands. And so that's a TELE. Why do you need it? It sounds like itself. Another one of those iconic sounds. It can actually bridge that gap between that. I find a TELE is amazing to record with. It sits really, really interestingly in a track, you know, where, like I said, where the Les Paul sits. Like I love to track a Les Paul and a TELE together. Ooh, it is the perfect sound. And maybe a Strat, you know, very clean and light in the mix right down the middle. If you do 3 guitars, it sounds cool. It's a really, really good sound. And to me, Les Paul and TELE are the ultimate rhythm team for rock and roll, whatever you're tracking guitars. Alright, in this one, the new kid on the block. Now I had to change the audio because it was clipping. This one's a little bit different, so I'll explain this guitar here in just a second. But 335, man, with distortion. It's a mean machine, so you best watch out when you plug this thing in. Now, like I said, this one is a little bit different than normal 335, so I'll explain it real quick. This is what's called a 335 Pro. I've done a few videos on it, but I still get asked about it a lot. And essentially, this one came with what was called dirty finger pickups back in the 70s, and they're just very hot pickups. They're like, I think they measure in at like 15 or something. But just overall, very, very compressed, which is odd that I like it, but this is the one that just kind of clicked with me. And honestly, it was more because of what I talked about earlier, is when the tones really hit me is when I started rolling the volume down. You know, I was like, ooh, oh, that's good. That's real good. And again, it's another one of those that I played a little bit different. And maybe on camera, through audio, you guys are like, you just play the same licks on all of them, which is probably true. But they feel different to me, you know, and on an inspiration side, they bring out different things. Like whenever I wrote the song, when I got the guitar, I don't remember how I played it now, but how did I do it? I remember it. How the riff goes anymore, but like I said, those are like different riffs for me. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because I always used that kind of that Joe Bonamassa third as a lead thing, and now it was a riff, and this guitar pulled that out of me. So very, very different from the other ones. A very unique feel and sound. Like you have to like that darker, rounder sound. If you like a real chimey sound, this is probably not the guitar for you. But again, that is the sound that I like, and I do like this guitar. One of the things that cured for me was a dislike of a neck pickup being a humbucker. Now, this one, it was interesting because coming from a person whose favorite tone of all time is the neck pickup on a Strat, very chimey, that glassy sound, and this is the complete opposite direction. This is a dark, compressed sound. Even rolled down, it's really dark compared to a Strat. But it still had this interesting sound to it. I was like, ooh, like it's very moody sounding, and I really liked that. I don't think I'll ever get another 335, because I think that this one, like you said, 335 is something that took me a very long time to find. It just took trying lots of them to really figure out what I liked. But this one, I got just kind of like rolling the dice a little bit, and thankfully it worked out great. But 335 is a very interesting guitar, especially one like this with hot pickups in it. Man, it'll rip your head off if you don't hold on tight. So there you guys have it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Like I said, show this video to your wife. You need these 4 guitars. It's out of our hands now. We don't have control over this situation. You need them. So other than that, I'm gonna bounce on out of here, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it as always. Make sure you subscribe, and other than that, I'll see you later. Peace.